It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Chicago White Sox. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Wednesday evening to you, wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium, final game of the three-game series with the White Sox and the final game of the homestand. Chicago, with a record of 30-30. They're now 19 times at the 500 percentage mark, and that's not bad at all because they're only 4 games behind the Detroit Tigers. Dodgers, meanwhile, are struggling. They are 7 games back of the Giants and some bad numbers. They've lost 5 of the last 7. They are 4-5 on this homestand. They are 2-6 against left-handers here, and they'll face John Danks tonight. And overall, the Dodgers find themselves 5 games under 500 at home. So the Dodgers trying to get well tonight and then push out and go on the road trip that will take them to Colorado and Cincinnati. So pull up a chair. This will be the final game with the Sox, and we'll get back to you with the ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dodgers Baseball as fans make their way into Dodger Stadium as they get set for Game 3 of this 3-game set between the Chicago White Sox and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Welcome inside Dodger Stadium, everybody. I'm Alana Rizzo. We talked at length yesterday. Of course, it was the one-year anniversary of Yasiel Puig's Major League Baseball debut, and what a debut it was. Really, what a 2013 for Yasiel Puig. Of course, the Dodgers, more importantly, going on a 42-8 run in 50 games. How impressive was 2013? Let's take a look at the numbers, and can this an encore this year? 42-8 when Yasiel Puig was called up. They averaged almost 5 runs per game. The team ERA 2.45. Hanley and Yasiel combined for a 3.44 average, 15 home runs, 46 RBIs. When Don Mattingly was asked earlier today by the media if he felt 2014 could be just as good as 2013 in terms of getting on some sort of run, he said this team needs to have the feeling of working together and having a collective effort of wanting to win every day, not worrying about who the star of the night is going to be, and really everybody being on the same side of the rope to have a collective mentality of getting the job done. He certainly feels he still has the guys in this clubhouse to make it happen in 2014. After the break, the legendary Vin Scully on the call. Game 3 between the White Sox and the Dodgers. We'll be right back.
Wherever you may be, we're at Dodger Stadium awaiting the start of Game 3, final game of the series with the White Sox, and the final game of the homestand, game number 10. Dodgers are 4-5, and they've split the 2 games with Chicago. So Josh Beckett going to the mound up against left-handed John Danks. For the Dodgers, 7 games back of the Giants, and for the White Sox, 4 games behind Detroit. For the Dodgers, the numbers at home, as Robin Ventura acts very much at home, having played here for 2 years and now returning as the skipper, and a very happy and valuable manager he is, and he deserves all of the honors that he's received. He's played here in 2003 and 2004. Here's his lineup. Starts out with Adam Eaton in center field, Gordon Beckham at second base, and Jose Abreu at first base. Adam Dunn in left field, Alexi Ramirez at short, Alejandro Diaz in right field, Tyler Flowers catching all 3 games in the series, Lurie Garcia at third base, and the pitcher left-hander John Danks. On the mound for the Dodgers, Josh Beckett. If he gets 4 innings under his belt tonight, he will have had 2,000 in his career. So to say he's a veteran would certainly be an understatement. He is 13-7 in interleague play. Going up against the White Sox, he is 4-3 lifetime. Last time he faced them, he was with the Red Sox and he lost. So Josh Beckett trying to turn the Dodgers around. They've lost 5 of the last 7. They're also in the red against the White Sox. Their record against Chicago in interleague play, 7 wins, 13 losses. So the Dodgers trying to kick it into gear. Adrian Gonzalez and company will be going out on the road. They'll leave tomorrow They'll spend next weekend in Colorado and then 4 games with the Cincinnati Reds. So the work is there for them. As far as Colorado is concerned, they lost 2 out of 3 so far. And against Cincinnati, they've won 2 out of 3. So we're about ready. Adam Eaton, the smallest center fielder, checks in. He'll be followed by Beckham and then Abreu. Eaton, left-hand batter. Multi-talented, 5'8", about 180. Originally signed by the Diamondbacks back in 2010. Adam has a look at his strike, and we're underway. White Sox are 3 games above 500 on the road, 3 games under at home. Strike 1 pitch, off speed, a change, drops in for a strike. So Beckett jumps out in front, 0-2. The temperature tonight, a beautiful 71 degrees. Beckett comes back 0-2, little curveball hit to the right side. Plenty of time for Gordon to throw him out. That was 74 miles an hour, and we have 1 down. Take a look at the Dodgers with the leather. They shape up Gonzalez and Gordon, Ramirez and Turner, with Kemp, Van Slyke, and Puig. Butera catching the series. He's behind the plate handling Beckett. Gordon Beckham coming up. Beckham, classy second baseman, had 2 hits in the first game, 2 hits last night. So with 4 hits under his belt, he takes a strike and the count 0-1. Gordon Beckham, a high school quarterback, and a great one at that. The strike 1 pitch on the way, Gordon takes off the plate. He followed in his father's footsteps. His father was a great athlete. And what he did when he got to high school, he broke all of his father's records. Passes, touchdowns, etc. 1-1 pitch, pulled on the ground back at third. Big pick by Justin. Makes the throw on a bounce in time to Adrian. Great play by Justin Turner. So a dazzler at third base by the redhead. He had to go to the line, backhand the ball, and he was in foul ground when he turned to make the throw, and it was a one-hopper, and Gonzalez able to handle. Big play. And with 2 down, here is Jose Abreu. In game 1 and again in game 2, he came up. The count went to no balls and 1 strike, and each time he hit a home run, each time with a man aboard. It was with Beckham aboard last night in the first inning, and Beckham aboard in the 4th inning the game before. Abreu takes away 1 ball and no strikes. Big guy has 17 home runs, 47 runs batted in, and playing in his 47th game. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Hesitates on a breaking ball that slips in for a strike, and the count 1-1. So there's pitching, and then there is hard throwing. You see a lot of fellas blessed where they can throw 96, 97. When you watch Beckett, you are watching a pitcher. The 1-2 fastball in on the hands, swung on and missed. So he's made 9 pitches, 1 fastball. Abreu backs out, then gets back in again. Josh looks down the barrel to get a sign. And big Abreu waits, and he is big, somewhere around 240 pounds, maybe 250, 6'3". Takes a slow curveball that just misses. 2-2 the count. Take another look. Beckett, a big, slow breaking ball, stayed up and inside. Plate umpire Kerwin Danley. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Abreu. Josh Reddy turns, right-handed delivers, and it's hit in the air to left center. On the dead run to run it down is Scott Van Slyke, and Abreu into second base with a double. That was a fastball. He was guessing on a 2-ball, 2-strike count, and he was not late. He doubles into the gap. So Abreu with a long double. Adam Dunn will be coming up. Van Slyke never had a chance. All he was thinking, hold it to a double. So Abreu at second base, that would be his 12th double. He has 1 triple and the 17 home runs. And now big Adam Dunn. Dunn, who really is a home run hitter. when you look back at his marks, you realize what a big noise he played when he was especially in the National League. Adam has a total of 458 home runs, 354 of them when he was with the Reds. He was with Cincinnati for 8 years. So Adam waiting, no balls, 1 strike. Beckett will look back at Abreu, right-hander back with a check swing on a ground ball to Ramirez. Hanley takes it, gets to first, and that'll do it. So a big guy like Dunn on a check swing, that's like a race car that can't move. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. At the end of half an inning, John Danks going to work. No score. Failed to score despite the double by Jose Abreu. Let's take a look at the Dodger lineup because D. Gordon is already in the box. Gordon followed by Puig and Ramirez. Adrian Gonzalez followed by Matt Kemp, Scott Van Slyke, and then Justin Turner, Drew Butera, and Josh Beckett. So Gordon waiting to face John Danks. John 6'1", 215-pounder, 29 years old, out of Austin, Texas. And his fastball way inside, ball 1, 1-0 to count. One of the things for Danks, and for any pitcher it's a problem, a loss in velocity. John ready. Now his 1-0 pitch on the way. Drag bunt. It's by the mound. Beckman doesn't have a play, and Gordon legs it out for a leadoff single. So Gordon, a bunt single to open up the ball game. By the way, while we have the moment, and talking about Gordon bunting for a base hit, Everett Cabrera bunted for a single as the second Padre of the afternoon. The Padres would score runs on a sacrifice fly, a throwing error, and a bases-loaded walk. And the Padres beat the Pirates 3-2, and their only hit was a bunt single. The last time that occurred was July of 1975, and it was the Padres again against the Chicago Cubs. Boy, to win a game with 1 hit and it's a bunt, that's quite a story. So Gordon with a drag bunt at first, and the batter now Yasiel Puig. Puig hitting .343. Danks out of a stretch. Left-hander takes a look at Gordon. Now to the plate, and a bunt by Puig in the air, caught by the third baseman Garcia. So Yasiel trying to bunt on his own, of course. No manager would ask him to bunt, and he popped it up. It's that old line you hear in the clubhouse a lot. Abreu, Beckham, Ramirez, Garcia, Dunn, Eaton, Diaza, and Flowers handling Danks. In the clubhouse, you always hear the old cry, "Don't think you'll hurt the club." I think Puig was thinking on his own, I'm going to follow Gordon. They'll never expect it. And he wastes the at-bat. So 1 away, and the batter now, Hanley Ramirez. First inning, no score. Ramirez followed by Gonzalez. Hanley off his feed for sure. Ramirez struggling at 257. Dank set, looks over at Gordon. Now to the plate, high and away. Gordon was going back to first base, so Danks fooled him on that pitch. I'm not sure if it was just ball one or a high pitch out. The Giants leading the Reds 3-2 in the bottom of the ninth inning. Giants committed 3 more errors tonight, but they still lead. Last night they lost and committed 4 errors. Here's the 1-0 pitch on the way. Instead, a throw to first and D back on the bag. Gordon, to refresh your memory, has stolen 34 out of 37. Dodgers lead the majors in stolen bases with 66. So Abreu holding a corner on Gordon. Danks, hands at his sides, and Ramirez waiting. John set, looks over at first. There goes Gordon. The pitch is high, the throw on a bounce, and he is out at second base. So the throw by Tyler Flowers was on a bounce. It looked like it might have been a high bounce, and Gordon got under it, but it was a quick tag by Gordon Beckham. The crowd doesn't like what they show on the screen, and now Don Mattingly is going to come out. Gordon is going to go back to second base until told otherwise. Mark Reppiger is at second base, and the young umpire was the one who made the call. The ball will bounce, and Beckham has to reach up to get it, and it looks like Gordon already on the bag and was hit in the small of the back. Now Mattingly is leaving the field, so apparently when they checked the tape, they said don't bother to have a review. Bounce high, the tag comes down. Well, I'll tell you one thing, what fooled us until we saw that. It looks like Gordon's left hand is on the bag. It's not. It's on the shoe of Beckham. But boy, you talk about cutting it close, and that's a good call, as it turns out, to Mark Reppiger, the young umpire at second base. So 2 down. Hanley takes a pitch off the plate, and the count goes 3-0. Well, Hanley could use a boost. You never know. 3-0. It could be that Mattingly will let him swing, especially if he likes the location. 3-0 pitch. Hanley looks, and it's in the dirt. So Ramirez draws a walk, and with 2 out, Adrian Gonzalez coming up. John Danks, back in 2011, his fastball was clocked at 91.6. In 2012, it dropped to 90.1. And then last year, it dropped down to 89.3. And now let's see, Robin Ventura, the White Sox trainer and the umpire, is going to the mound. John Danks apparently replying to a question that came up from the trainer. So Danks talked to the trainer. His father was a fine athlete. His father played basketball at Texas. His younger brother, Jordan, a slugging outfielder, and his sister's a volleyball player. And he certainly looks in good shape. So after that very brief confab, they all go on back. Danks committed to the University of Texas. His young sister received a volleyball scholarship to Ohio State. There are a lot of good athletes in that family. All right, Danks says he's okay. Adrian Gonzalez now will test him. 2 down, first inning, no score. Ramirez at first. Adrian looks, and the first pitch is high. 1 ball and no strikes. Orthodox infield setup. Adrian hitting less than 200 against left-hand pitching. They've shut him down, hitting only 185. Danks set at the belt, looks over at Ramirez, left-handed to the plate, gets the inside corner with a breaking ball, and the count 1-1. When asked the usual question, John, what would you have been had you not been a baseball player? He always wanted to be a firefighter. Left-hander ready, 1-1 pitch away. 2-1 the count to Adrian Gonzalez. One thing that John Banks has done every year with Matt Kemp on deck, he has his head shaved. 2-1 pitch is a ground ball to the right side. Easy out at first. Banks gets his head shaved to get funds for childhood cancer research. He's got to be quite a guy. No runs, bunt, single man left at the end of an inning. No score. Top of the second inning, no score in the ball game. Don't forget, spend Father's Day with us at Dodger Stadium Sunday, June 15th. Dodgers and Diamondbacks. First 40,000 fans in attendance receive a sports bag, and after the game, come down on the field and play catch. All sponsored by Avita Water. Second inning, Alexei Ramirez in the box. Beckett's first pitch, fastball grounded sharply to the other Ramirez, and Hanley throws him out. And just like that, one away.
Coming to the plate, right fielder, number 30.
Alexei Ramirez, a solid hitter. Very impressive throughout the series. He was hitting .325 when he hit that sharp ground ball to short. He is a tough out. So one away. Alejandro Diaza coming up. Diaza getting a chance to start. Diaz is from Guaymat in the Dominican Republic and was originally drafted by the Dodgers. He takes a strike, and the count 0-1. In 2012, Alejandro grounded into his first double play of the season, fouls it back. It was his 571st plate appearance in his 128th game before he hit into a double play. Only two other players have ever had more plate appearances without grounding into a double play. Houston Craig Biggio went 744 plate appearances, and the Tigers' Dick McAuliffe went 658. So understandably, Alejandro can fly. Left-hand batter holds up on a breaking ball. They look at third, no swing. Alejandro is an even 6, 190. $30 old, signed by the Dodgers, but left the organization almost immediately and went to the Marlins. Tries to time a breaking ball, hits a fly ball to left center. Kemp is calling, and one hands it for the out. So after 4 ground balls, Beckett gives up a fly ball, 2 down, and the catcher, Tyler Flowers. Tyler Flowers, 6'4", 245. Big man, right-hand batter out of Roswell, Georgia. Originally signed by the Braves. So Tyler checking in, hitting .282. No score, second inning, 2 out, pitch inside at the hands, fastball, and no swing. Flowers hit his 5th home run of the year last night. Been struggling at the plate, bends and the pitch inside. 2 balls and no strikes. So big Tyler Flowers, 2 down, bases empty, second inning, no score. Beckett ready, now his 2-0 pitch, fastball in at the knees. 2-1 the count to Tyler Flowers. 2-out double in the first inning from Jose Abreu, but that's it. Dodgers had a bunt single by D. Gordon. 2-1 pitch in there to find the mark and even it up. Another fastball. So he's throwing more fastballs to Flowers than the other 4 or 5 hitters combined. A lot of slow breaking stuff to everybody else. So now I wonder if Tyler's thinking another fastball. No, big slider away. 3-2 the count. Tyler up and down in the White Sox organization. Once he left the Braves, he went over to the White Sox, and he's made a lot of trips to Charlotte from Chicago. 3-2 pitch, off-speed breaking ball on a check swing, strike 3. So he got 2 breaking balls, fooled on the last one, and Beckett picks up his first strikeout. And at the end of an inning and a half, no score. Kemp, Van Slyke, and Turner in that order. All of us who have had anything to do with professional baseball, and especially the Dodgers, really pine and hurt as we got the news today that Don Zimmer of the Dodgers and so many other teams, but he'll forever be a Dodger. Don Zimmer passed away today. He was about 83 years old. And wherever Joe Torre is, I'll bet his heart is broken because he loved Zimmer as much as all of us. Matt Kemp takes a curveball, hits it to third. Up with it is Garcia. So he's done on 1 pitch, 1 away. Don Zimmer, while he was in a Dodger uniform, I would hazard to guess he was the most beloved Dodger amongst his teammates. There are those who are very popular. There were those who are respected. but rarely do you ever put the title beloved on a player, and Zimmer was. One reason, he was seriously beamed twice. He was having a great year in July of 1953 at St. Paul. The batter Van Slyke takes a strike. A pitcher named Jim Kirk hit him in the head. He was unconscious for 13 days, couldn't speak, and lost 40 some odd pounds. And 1953 was the year the Dodgers went into the World Series. And they loved Don Zimmer so much. They asked the commissioner, could he possibly sit in the dugout with us? And the commissioner said yes. Strike 2 pitch is squirted foul, still 0-2. And I remember doing that first game in the World Series, and there was Zimmer surrounded by his teammates, and he couldn't speak, could not say a word. But they had a place for him in the dugout. Dodgers battling the Yankees in 53. And for those of you who are old enough to remember the Dodgers in 59 out here, Van Slyke is just hit by a pitch. It was Don Zimmer holding down the fort at shortstop, but he was hit on the foot by a pitch. Didn't break the toe, but the toe was swollen. He couldn't put a shoe on. They cut a big hole in the toe of the shoe, and Zimmer tried to play shortstop, but he couldn't really do it. So Zimmer's injury caused the Dodgers to reach down and come up with Maury Wills. But to get back to Zimmer, he had so many nicknames because he had so many popular traits. The most famous of his nicknames, Popeye. Left-hander Danks working Turner, misses inside, ball 1. He was also called Tippy. They also had only a ball player's name for him, Miami Beach. Don loved the high life, the dog races, the horse races, the card games, and he always had a group with him. Don Zimmer. Here's the 1-0 pitch on the way instead, throw to first. One quick story involving me. One year, I actually wore a Dodger uniform and sat quietly in the Dodger dugout. They were playing the Chicago Cubs. Zimmer was the Cubs manager, and I had asked for permission to do it, and I didn't think anyone except some of the Dodger players knew I was even in the dugout, because I crept in right after the anthem. And I sat there with the cap pulled down over my brow, arms folded at my chest, and I wasn't going to make a move. And at the end of half an inning, the late John Vukovich, who was the first base coach for the Cubs, as he ran by the dugout, he hollered, "Vinny." And I looked up and he threw a ball to me. And I caught the ball, and on the ball it said, "If a fight breaks out, I want you." And it was signed Zimmer. And I looked over, and the Cubs were just falling down on the bench in laughter. Some secret that Scully was in the dugout. But he was just wonderful. It was an honor, a pleasure, and a huge grace to have known Don Zimmer, believe me. 1-1 to count to Justin Turner. Here comes Danks, and it's fouled away. Turner way out in front of it. 1-2 the count. Zimmer, by the way, recovering from the beating in 1953. And then 3 years later, he was hit in the head by a converted outfielder by the name of Hal Jeffcoat. But at no time was the fire ever extinguished. 1-2 pitch. Justin turns on it. Long fly ball, but not enough. Adam Dunn is still on the grass, makes the catch, and Van Slyke holds. 2 down, second inning.
Catcher number 31, Drew Butera.
Drew Butera coming up. So Butera, like Flowers, catching the entire series. Drew 1 for 4 in the first game, 2 for 3 with a walk last night. So 3 for 7 in the series. No score, bottom of the second, 2 out. Van Slyke held on by Abreu, and Josh Beckett, the pitcher, on deck. Danks set, looks over at Van, comes back to his hitter, and gets it in there for a strike. And the count 0-1. Danks very deliberate, So deliberate, I think there was cause for concern in the dugout. They thought perhaps something was wrong with him. He was a first-round pick by the Texas Rangers. Strike one pitch, fastball, swung on and missed, and they count 0-2. Tell you a very interesting thing about John Danks and his brother. His younger brother Jordan is an outfielder, AAA Charlotte, and they became the first set of brothers to be on the White Sox active roster since Roberto and Sandy Alomar back in 2004. And Jordan, while playing, hit a go-ahead home run in support of his brother against Texas. And John was the winning pitcher. So it was one of those rare things where John Danks became the first pitcher to start and win a game in which his brother homered as a teammate. You'd have to go back to 1947. Big Walker Cooper was the catcher. His brother Mort Cooper, and Walker hit a home run for the New York Giants. A line drive to left field coming up. Adam Dunn to make the play. And you know, for Adam, it's only the third game he's played in left field. So no runs, no hits, hit batter, man left. And at the end of 2, no score. Score in the ball game. Lurie Garcia will start it off. First time we have seen him. Switch hitter, third baseman. He'll be followed by John Danks. And then the top of the order, Adam Eaton. Lurie Garcia. He's about 5'7" and checks in at about 155 pounds. So he's a very small strike zone and a very good player. Originally signed by the Rangers. He's from Santiago in the Dominican Republic. Batting left-handed and promptly hits a high fly ball to dead center. Van Slyke, it's over his head. He goes to the wall. It's over the wall. So he's 5'7" and muscles one out over the center field wall. In looking through his quick record, that's probably his first major league home run. Lurie Garcia, 5'7", and he's getting a hero's welcome in the dugout. Wow, he surprised everybody. Fastball around the knees, and he just hit it out. Van Slyke couldn't believe it. He kept going back and back and back, and it was over his head and finally over the wall. So a leadoff home run. It is 1-0 in favor of the Sox. That means the White Sox have jumped out on a home run in each of the 3 games. Abreu twice, and now Garcia with a big smile from ear to ear. Home run. Wow. Abreu comes over, holds out his hands as if to say, what was that all about? And they're having a lot of fun with him. In looking through his minor league record, most home runs he ever hit, 4. But he did not hit a home run in the big leagues until tonight. High fly ball into shallow right center. Puig has the call and makes the catch. So Danks, fly ball, 1 away. And Adam Eaton will be coming up. Lurie, his first name, Leury, Garcia. 23 years old, 5'7", 155 pounds. He played for the Dominican national baseball team last year in the World Baseball Classic, and he had a nickname in the Dominican. They called him Furcalito. The Furcal, part of the Ito, it meant little Furcal, in name of Rafael Furcal. Furcalito. Oh, good for him. Boy, he is really one happy guy. 1 ball and no strikes, the count to Adam Eaton. Another smallish player. He grounded out in the first inning. Beckett delivers and runs it away. Ball 2, 2-0. I mean, when you see people like Abreu, 6'3", 245. Adam Dunn, 6'6", 280. And then you see a fellow like Garcia hit one over the center field fence. That's truly remarkable. Nothing remarkable about a ground ball to third. So Eaton is out, 5-3. 2 out, third inning.
15, Gordon Beckham.
Gordon Beckham coming up. Turner over to say something to Beckett. By the way, that home run, the 9th home run that Beckett has allowed, tops on the Dodgers squad Dan Herron, who has 10. Dan's problem, the last 8 have come in a hurry. Big slow curveball away, ball 1. So Herron sitting alongside Zach Greinke and Clayton Kershaw. Pitchers always huddle. The 1-0 pitch, check swing for a strike, and the count 1-1. Beckham grounded to third in the first inning. Very nice young man. The 1-1 pitch on the way. Gordon swings, hits it to the hole on the right side, right by a diving D. Gordon, and a base hit into right field. So a 2-out single after a leadoff home run. For Beckham, that would be his 5th hit in the series. So the boy from Atlanta putting on a show. He was a great high school quarterback, so great that in high school he broke all of his father's records. Then his dad went on to be a quarterback at the University of South Carolina. He had a chance to go to the Air Force Academy and be a quarterback, but he opted to go to Georgia to play baseball. And now here's the big man. Jose Abreu, double to the gap in left center. Beckett out of his stretch. It's 1-0 Chicago in the third. Josh delivers and runs a cutter down and away. 1 ball and no strikes. Jose Abreu, 17 home runs, 12 doubles and a triple. As a rookie, having a fabulous year. 1 ball and no strikes. The 1-0 pitch in on the hand, swung on and missed. 1-1. His nickname is Pito, P-I-T-O. Out of Cienfuegos in Cuba, the same area that produced Ore Barrena and also Yasiel Puig. He was a professional baseball player in Cuba. The 1-1 pitch on the way, swung on, ground ball to Ramirez, quick flip to Gordon, that'll be that. 1 run, home run by Lurie Garcia. There was also a hit and a man left at the end of 2.5 innings. It is 1-0 Chicago. Tuesday, June 17th, Dodgers and Rockies at 7:10. First 40,000 fans in attendance take home an autographed baseball in a tin presented by MasterCard. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Meanwhile, Josh Beckett takes a strike and the count 0-1. Beckett, then Gordon, and then Puig. The strike one pitch in there up around the letters. Beckett has made 38 pitches in his 3 innings, allowing 1 run. Now the strike two pitch to Josh, down and away, ball 1. On deck, D. Gordon. 1-2 pitch, waved at and missed. So Josh strikes out. 1 away in the 3rd. That would be the first strikeout for John Danks. And it will bring up D. Gordon. Coming into the game tonight, D. Gordon was first with 7 steals of third. He was second in infield hits with 17, and he was tied for first with 6 bunts. But he got a bunt single opening up the game, so now I would assume he's at top of the heap with 7 bunts. First pitch, he has a look, pays a strike, 0-1. We told you hurriedly and earlier that the Padres beat the Pirates on 1 hit, and it was a bunt single. And we told you the Padres did that once before against the Cubs. Strike one pitch off the plate. The other time, it was a bunt single by Johnny Grubb. He laid it down in the 7th inning. It broke up a Steve Stone no-hitter. Steve Stone is here. He's broadcasting the Chicago White Sox game with Ken Harrelson. So how to lose a no-hitter on a bunt. There's Steve, the orange and black, and in the corner, the Hawk, as they call Ken Harrelson. Pitch foul back 2-2. That's a better shot of both of them. Steve Stone's a Cy Young pitcher and a really good one. And of course, Ken Harrelson was an outfielder, and most people think Harrelson is the guy who invented wearing a batting glove. It was a golf glove at the time, but he was the first one to use it. Now the 2-2 pitch to Gordon. Full swing foul off third. Garcia coming over, can't get it. Still 2-2. White Sox lead 1-0 in the 3rd inning on Garcia's home run. Yasiel Puig waiting on deck. Abreu about even with the bag at first. 2-2 pitch, full swing, high fly ball to left field. Adam Dunn trots in, waits, makes the catch for the out. Third put out for Adam out there in left field.
Number 66,
and now here's Yasiel Puig. If you look at Yasiel Puig and Jose Abreu, go back to Puig's first 46 games of last year, and Abreu his first 46 this year. Big difference in batting average. Abreu had more power then than Puig has, but that's changed. RBIs, it was Abreu. And now in this game, we've enjoyed watching them go head to head. And so far, Abreu would be the hands down winner with 2 two-run home runs and a double. 1 ball and no strikes. Danks back with a pitch away. 2-0 the count. Puig last night had a double and an infield single plus a walk. In the game before, he went 0 for 4, and that snapped his streak of reaching base safely 33 straight. So Yasiel waiting. 2 balls and no strikes. Danks next pitch low in the dirt. Fastball. 3-0 the count. Yasiel with Hanley Ramirez hitting back of him. It's 1-0 White Sox. We're in the bottom of the 3rd. 2 out. 3-0 pitch on the way to Puig, and he takes it up high. He didn't want to walk, but he's going to take it. So that'll bring up Hanley Ramirez with Puig at first base. For John Danks, he's had one noticeable problem. Coming into tonight's game, he had walked 27 batters in 67 innings. Last year, he walked 27 batters in 138 innings. So he's fighting his control. He has now walked 2 tonight and hit a batter. And here's Hanley, who walked in the first inning. Danks goes to first. Puig jumps back on the bag. Puig, a little better than a break-even base stealer. He's stolen 5, been caught 4. And tough to get a jump with a left-hander looking right at him. One nothing Chicago, bottom of the third. Danks set at the belt. John looks over at first, comes to his hitter inside at the kneecaps. 1 ball and no strikes to Hanley Ramirez. Danks, another pitcher trying to get well at the expense of the Dodgers. I mean, last year John was 4-14. He comes in tonight 3-5. Here's the 1-0 pitch on the way. The left-hander's fastball is lifted to left center, but lifted is all. It's playable. Adam Eaton is at the other end of it, and that'll be that. No runs, no hits, a man left. And at the end of 3, Chicago 1, Dodgers nothing.
By Honda. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda. Now at your Honda dealer.
1-0 favor of the Chicago White Sox as we go to the 4th inning. And it'll be Adam Dunn to start it off. A quick look. Josh Beckett's uniform that he wore when he pitched his no-hitter against the Phillies is glass and clace, and a show place outside the stadium. Meanwhile, Adam Dunn checks in, and the big guy takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Dunn has 1 home run against Beckett in the past. You get the idea that Adam Dunn has 1 home run against everybody. Strike 1 pitch, slow and low, 1 ball and 1 strike. So here's a guy with 458 home runs, 6'6", about 280 pounds. And Beckett trying to get by with a lot of slow stuff. 1-1 pitch, off speed, got that in there at 72 miles an hour. And the count 1-2. Dunn unable to play against Clayton Kershaw, but he wore Kershaw out. He's 8 for 13 against Clayton Kershaw. Takes low. Not only 8 for 13, Adam Dunn has 4 home runs and 2 doubles in 13 at-bats against Kershaw. No major league hitter, right or left, has as many home runs as Adam Dunn against Kershaw, 4. Chris Denorfia of San Diego, 3. 2-2 pitch, hammered to right, going back on the ball is Puig, and she's gone. So home run number 459 for Adam Dunn. Up and Adam, his 9th home run, 24th run batted in. So boy, what a difference. I mean, Garcia looks like he fell out of Dunn's pocket, and they each have a home run. So the big man and the smallish man, and they take Beckett downtown. Dunn, of course, so accustomed to the home run. He's hit as many as 46. And of course, he wears the great number 44, worn so well by Henry Aaron. So the man from Montgomery in Texas makes it 2-0 Chicago. Off-speed pitch and away to Alexi Ramirez. The next one, grounded foul outside of third, down the line. 1-2 the count. 459 home runs, 95 hit since he went over to the American League. That was in 2011. 95 in that short span. 1-2 pitch, swung on and missed, and down goes Ramirez. For Josh Beckett, that would be his second strikeout. 2-0 Chicago. Alejandro Diaz coming up, fly to center in the second inning. Diaz, we told you earlier, had that remarkable stretch of not hitting into a double play. He takes high, ball one. Left-hand batter and flies. The Marlins took him out of the Dodger organization, and then the White Sox picked him up on waivers. He shows bunt, takes outside. 2-0 the count. 1 out, 1 in. 2-0 Chicago. Robin Ventura trying to get his club above 500, which would be big news in Chicago. 2-0 pitch on the way. Swung on, little flare to left field, coming up, but having to jam on the brakes is Kemp. It drops in for a base hit. We've mentioned the White Sox. When they got to the 500 mark in this series, they reached 500 for the 19th time this year. Now that's a team that last year lost 99 games, and they find themselves, even though people say, well, it's only a 500 team. Yeah, but they're only 4 games back of Detroit going into the game. So the batter now, Tyler Flowers, the big catcher, holds up and takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Talking about big catchers, former Major League catcher Mark Parent helped Ventura run the White Sox. He's as big a catcher as we ever saw. Strike one pitch coming up. Flowers waits. Beckett makes him wait. Still makes him wait, and he's tired of waiting and backs out. One thing he has to worry about is Diaz. Diaz has stolen 6 out of 9. So Darrell Boston advising him as he takes his lead. Super Joe McEwing over there at third, coaching for the White Sox. Truly an inspirational player was Super Joe. Strike one pitch on the way in the dirt. Nice save by Butera. So Flowers struck out in the second inning. Big guy 0 for 1. Flowers at 6'4", about 245. The 1-1 pitch on the way. Beckett a high set. Here he comes, but too long, and kind of confused about whether to throw the ball or not. He kind of softballed it up there just as time was being called by Kerwin Danley. The Flowers got out of there in a hurry. No pitch. 1-1 the count. Flowers not quite ready to get back in. Last year, Flowers hit a home run on opening day. That made him only the 4th player in baseball history to homer in a 1-0 season opening win. Bob Bailey of Pittsburgh back in 1965. Frank Fernandez of the Yankees in 68. And Gary Sheffield of the Dodgers here in 2001. 1-1 to Flowers. Beckett ready. There goes the runner. Fastball swung on and missed. Hurry throw on a bounce is late. So Diaz steals his 7 out of 10. Take another look. He got a good jump. The throw on a bounce on the shortstop side. So Gordon had to bring the tag back after leaning and then drop the throw as he tries to pin it on him. So it's a stolen base. Diaz 7 out of 10. 1 out. On deck, Garcia. Beckett ready, double checking. Now the 1-2 pitch. Flowers grounds foul outside at third. Though still 1-2 to the big catcher, Tyler Flowers. Tyler's 28 years old. Apparently chipped the bat. Out of Roswell, Georgia. Went to Chipola Junior College in Florida. So Tyler coming back up in the mental duel with Beckett, because Beckett holds on to the ball so long. It's a question of patience or irritation for the hitter. Josh loves the irritation. Now he's sad, looks back at second. Long look. Now he delivers, and a breaking ball off the plate. 2-2 the count. There was a time in New York when the Mets had a pitcher and the crowd would actually holler, "Throw the ball." Josh is getting to that stage. 2-2. Flowers waiting, 1 out. Diaz at second base. Slow curveball in there and a strike. The Flowers can't believe it. After all that time and all that waiting, a pitch that looked like you needed a calendar, not a speed gun. And a breaking ball dropped in nicely. It was 71 miles an hour. So the irritation pays off, or the impatience, whichever. Flowers wilts, and with 2 out, the batter is Lurie Garcia. 5'7" and hit the ball over the center field fence back in the 3rd inning. And they're going to walk him intentionally. Not going to fool around with him again. Take their chances with John Danks. Final score, Giants held on, beat the Reds 3-2. Ryan Vogelsong struck out 9 to get the win. He needed 4 relievers to bail him out. Juan Perez, Michael Morse both homered, gave the Giants a 3-run 6th inning and a come-from-behind win. Despite the fact the Giants had a bunch of errors, they held on to win it. So more pressure on the Dodgers. Of course, for the Giants, they play very well home and road. Giants are 19-12 on the road, 19-9 at home. Dodgers are 13-18 at home. Pitch fouled away by John, 0-1 the count. Dodgers play well on the road, 18-11, but that's not the normal way to success. So for the moment, Dodgers technically 7.5 games back. And they'll go on the road to play Colorado, who's right back of them, and then Cincinnati. Strike 1 pitch to Danks. 0-2 the count.
We're in the fourth. White Sox lead 2-0. White Sox have lost 8 of the 11 games that Danks has started this year. Slow breaking ball is in there. That will do it for Danks. As it turns out, Beckett strikes out the side, but he couldn't strike out Adam Dunn. And at the end of 3.5 innings, it's 2-0 Chicago. Home runs by Garcia and Dunn. Say attention, Time Warner Cable customers. Sportsnet LA is moving to a permanent home on channel 319. Don't miss a minute of the action. We'll bring you all things Dodgers. So for new TWC channel listings and more information, visit twc.com/mychannel. Adam Dunn hits one out here in the fourth inning. Lurie Garcia homered in the third inning. Adam Dunn raising his hands, I think, towards the White Sox dugout because the Kings had just beaten the New York Rangers, and Dunn must love the LA Kings. So it's 3-2 in favor of the Kings. They win game one. And Adam Dunn, who hit a home run, showed far more excitement over the Kings' victory than his home run. Adrian Gonzalez, Matt Kemp, and then Scott Van Slyke in that order. (2-0) Chicago. Gonzalez takes a strike. 0-1 the count. So the White Sox, 2 home runs tonight. They had 2 home runs last night, 1 home run the night before, 5 home runs so far in 2 games plus 4 innings of the third. So the White Sox very happy here. 1-1 to Adrian Gonzalez. 1-1 pitch. Now Gonzalez in a hole. 1-2. Adrian rolled out in the first inning. One-two pitch coming up. Hit foul off third upstairs. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Adrian Gonzalez. Back on Saturday, Adrian had a big day. His 6th game with 3 or more hits. Off speed and a 1-hopper, and there's Beckham at the other end of it. Drops it, can't pick it up, tries to throw it, drops it again. So Gordon Beckham unable to handle a ground ball 3 different times. And Gonzalez aboard on the error. There's the ground ball and the drop, the pickup and the drop, the pickup and the drop. Can't believe that cowhide or horsehide could be so slippery. Just like a wet bar of soap for sure. Come on, you rascal, get in my hand. And ball one. That's like trying to pick up a squirrel. So E4. Here's Matt Kemp, grounded to third in the second inning, 0 for 1. Ball two. For the White Sox, they've had some well-pitched games. Quintana in the first game. Last night, a fine job turned in by Noesi. Tough acts to follow as they look on. And Danks into the fourth inning has held the Dodgers to one hit. Dan Herron, animated in his talk to Clayton Kershaw, as usual, pretty quiet. Zach Greinke. Two and one. 2-2. Danks basically a two-seam fastball. Then he has a curveball, a changeup. A couple of years ago, he added a cutter. Two and two. And on the inside corner. So Matt Kemp taking a little stroll back to the dugout. He's 0 for 2. That would be the second strikeout for John Danks. Matt right on top of the plate. So he must have thought it was inside, but that was right down the pipe. Right there. You see him bending at the waist. No reason to bend on that pitch. So one out. Van Slyke hit by a pitch and a strike. 0-1 to count. One out, fourth inning, 2-0 Chicago. 0-2 the count to Scott Van Slyke. Waiting on deck, Justin Turner. Oh, and 2. Just low. That's that two-seamer with a lot of sink on it. Two and 2. Gonzalez certainly not much of a threat to steal. Adrian does have a stolen base. 2-0 Chicago, bottom of the fourth. And fastball missed. Missing down just below the knees. 3-2 the count to Scott Van Slyke. One out. You wouldn't expect Adrian Gonzalez to be going 3-2, one out. Adrian with a little grin on his face. He knew the time was out and he put a fake on as if he was running. Make Danks think about it. He's not going. And the pitch way off the plate. So the error by Beckham, followed by a strikeout and a walk, and all of a sudden after 57 pitches, Danks is being challenged. Time runs aboard, one out. Justin Turner, a high fly ball to left field in the second inning. Justin batting .259. So Gonzalez and Van Slyke. Beckham wishing he had been able to not only field a ground ball but pick it up. One of those things. Turner 0 for 1. And little ground ball to Beckham. He is going to throw to first. Now they have to tag Van Slyke, but they also have to worry about a runner at third. And now they're going to have the runner going, and they go to third base, and this time they missed the tag on Gonzalez. Oh, the White Sox really butchered what should have been a double play ball, and that certainly is a tough thing for Robin Ventura to accept. Wow. Beckham's idea on the slow ground ball, okay, I will tag the runner Van Slyke. But Van Slyke's not going to run into it, so okay, they get him in a rundown. But then it dawns on them, wait a minute, there's a runner at third. And now they try to get Gonzalez, they lose him, and into second base goes Van Slyke. Adrian doing a nice split, touched the bag with his hand and his foot. So Robin Ventura is coming out of the dugout after watching his infielders fall apart. He's not about to let them to play again without breaking the mood. The Dodgers have not been known for any fielding excellence. They've committed 44 errors. But it should be noted that the White Sox have committed 48 errors. Now Robin Ventura wants to apparently check something out on that play. So it looks like it'll be an official call, and they'll have to look. Let's see which part of the play Robin didn't like. It might be here, no foot on, maybe the tag there, and the hand is not on the bag. So that might very well be the play that Robin spotted. Boy, I tell you one thing, if Gonzalez is out, they can really thank their lucky stars to get out of this inning. So no foot, no hand, and the tag appears. You probably could not have seen that if you were in the Dodger dugout, but sitting over in the first base dugout, Robin had a good view. So let's see. If Gonzalez is out, the inning is over. Here it is again. We believe this is the play. You see the left foot, also the hand, no touch, and there looks to be the tag while the hand is above the bag. Now let's see whether that's the way the officials see it. Kerwin Danley takes the headset off and out. It was a good call by Robin Ventura. And even though his infield messed up, the manager did not mess up. And kicking and screaming, the Dodgers go back to their dugout. And at the end of 4, it's 2-0 Chicago. 5th inning. If you are keeping score on what turns out to be quite a rundown double play, it was a ground ball to Gordon Beckham, and he threw to Abreu. Abreu threw across the diamond to Ramirez. Ramirez threw over to third to Garcia. So the play goes 4-3-6-5. Ventura talking to Abreu right now. By the way, in talking about the sharp eyes of Robin Ventura, in his playing day, Robin had 6 gold gloves. Well, he knows what to do with the ball in the glove as well as hit it. You know, he had 18 Grand Slam home runs in his career. So here's Adam Eaton. Line drive down the line, just fair. Eaton on his way to second. Kemp's throw into second base, not in time. So Beckett has given up a single, 2 doubles, and 2 home runs.
Second baseman number 15, Gordon Beckham.
So Eaton line drive just does hit the chalk. That close. And the batter now is Gordon Beckham. Eaton at second base, Beckham, Abreu, and Dunn trying to pick him up. 2-0 in favor of the White Sox. Beckham 5 hits in the series and 1 for 2 tonight. Starts him fast and low. 1 ball and no strikes. Eaton dancing away at second. That's off the plate. 2 balls and no strikes. Fastball at 92. When Beckett pitches, the fastball is the change of pace. It's the slow curve, straight change, and then zip every now and then. 2-0. Two and one. Gordon Beckham, good solid ball player. A little shaky with the club in the series, but he's been a fixture for the last 4 years at second base for the White Sox. 2-1 the count. He's 27 years old. He'll be 28 in September. Beckett off the rubber. Beckham out of the box. Eaton is a break-even base stealer, 5-5. 2-2. Waiting on deck, Jose Abreu. Two years ago, Beckham had 16 home runs, but that tailed off to 5. Foul back. He has 4 home runs this year. But 16, that was a lot, along with 60 runs batted in. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Nobody out. Top of the 5th. Eaton at second base. And the White Sox lead the Dodgers 2-0. Holding up. I think the chair thought it might have ticked the bat. No swing. 3-2 to Gordon Beckham. Oh, Beckett really slowing down the pace again, trying to irritate the hitter, trying to make him impatient. Fastball. And a tough play coming up. Barehanded by Hanley, and he makes the play. On the play, Eaton advances to third. The Beckham a slow roller, one down, and now Jose Abreu coming up. Abreu has 2 sacrifice flies. That certainly enters into the picture. Eaton at third, 1 out. Abreu doubled to the gap in left center, hit into a force play on a ground ball to Ramirez. Joe McEwing, a few words of advice to Adam Eaton, and I'm sure the first word is stay alive with Abreu up there. And Beckett wants to talk. You talk about the third base coach saying to the runner, be alive. I've mentioned it before. One night in Cincinnati, Big Frank Howard was the batter. Duke Snyder was coming down the line from third. Howard hit a line drive. I thought it killed Snyder. It hit the top of his shoulder and then just went by the side of his head. Well, it's no fun coming down the line with a big guy at the plate. Check swing. Ball 1. Infield is up. We're in the 5th. Beckett allowed 2 runs last time out and lost, and he's allowed 2 runs tonight. Slow breaking ball off the plate. 2-0. Boy, you talk about the horns of the dilemma. The big horns. With Abreu followed by Dunn. Two and 0. Fastball low and inside. 3-0. Well, they're going to put him on intentionally or try to pitch behind 3-0 as Adam Dunn waits. And 0 to Abreu. And he lays off ball 4. Beckett allows 2 walks, one of them intentionally given to Lurie Garcia. And now here's Adam Dunn, grounded to short, and then in the 4th inning, leading off, crushed one into the right field stand. So Adam Dunn now has 449 home runs. Carl Yastrzemski's ahead of him with 452. At 449, Vladimir Guerrero, Jeff Bagwell, and Big Adam. So 1st and 3rd, 1 out. Good off-speed sinker, 0-1 to count. Adam Dunn, 6'6", around 280. He'll be 35 in November. Originally a 2nd-round pick by the Reds. 0-2. With the home runs, of course, you pay a price. In fact, 2 years ago, Adam playing for the White Sox, he had 41 home runs, 96 runs batted in, but he had 222 strikeouts and batted only .204. 0-2. Slow and low, ball 1. In 2004, when Adam Dunn was playing with the Reds, he had 46 home runs. He had 102 runs batted in and did not have a sacrifice fly. Kind of remarkable. 102 without the fly ball. They're looking for at least a fly ball now. 1-2 the count. beaten foul. Adams started with the Reds in 2001. He was with the Reds for 8 years. He had 5 years where he played more than 150 games every year. And he's had over 100 RBIs 5 times in his career. One ball and 2 strikes. In the dirt. Talking about no sacrifice flies while driving in over 100 runs. Nick Ossowski did that in 1989. Chili Davis hit it in 1993. But it's rare. Two balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. Beckett's like a member of the bomb squad trying to defuse. 2-2 pitch. Fastball on the hands. Fouled away. Got it up to 91. Dunn has had some forgettable years as far as batting average with the White Sox. 159 with the Nationals and 204 with Chicago. 219 last year. Slow and low. I think, well, we checked. We were looking at the scoreboard. We thought that was going to make it ball 3. Beckett seems a little confused. Wait a minute. I think the plate umpire might have gotten his indicator mixed. I think that's only, I believe it's only 3-2. Yeah. It happens once in a while. They have an indicator. Every now and then the plate umpire will either forget to turn the wheel or turn it inadvertently. They're going to check, I believe, the videotape. It should be 3 balls and 2 strikes. I'll always remember an umpire named Tony Venzin. Now, all umpires are asked to carry the indicator in their left hand. See that? Always keep it in your left hand because you're going to raise it to make sure you're keeping track of the count. Tony Venzin kept the indicator in his right hand, and every time Tony would raise to look, I would think it's a strike. And I was really embarrassed. I wasn't trying to give the plate umpire a bad time at all. But every time he brought that right hand up, I thought it was a strike. So after the game, I thought I'd best go down and meet that umpire and apologize. So I went down and I saw Tony Venzin, and I said, Mr. Venzin, it was awfully difficult for me. I've always been told the plate umpire carries the indicator in his left hand, but you carry yours in your right hand. And he said, well, young man, let me tell you, I wish I could use my left hand. And then he showed me his left hand. No thumb. He had lost the thumb in a commercial accident. So Tony Venzin had to use the right hand, and boy, that was confusing. Tony Venzin umpired back in 1957 till 1971. Very nice man, but no thumb on his left hand. But I think Hanley might have just forgotten it because we had it 2-2 on ball 3. The scoreboard had it 2-2 on ball 3. So we'll wait and see. They're looking back at the pitches. We can show the pitches just to keep you in track. Here's the first one. That's a strike. 0-1. Fouled away. 0-2. 1-2. 1-2. 2-2. Foul ball. Still 2-2. 3-2. Yes, you better come back. So Robin Ventura now is going to come out and say to Kerwin Danley, what's up on the count? And all Kerwin can really do is say, hey, I carried the indicator in my left hand and somehow or other I just lost the count.
3-2.
Check swing, fouls, pitches in the dirt. So So Adam Dunn will come back and bat, and we'll see just what that means. I mean, you're giving a big hitter another pitch after the pitcher's rhythm has been broken. It's not that it's 3-2. That wouldn't bother Dunn. But I'm sure for Ventura, he's thinking, that's great. You guys take a big huddle. What about a timeout? Well, there are runners at second and third. Remember, on what they thought was ball 4, that sent Abreu to second base. So now Ventura is saying, now wait a minute, you mean I lose my runner at second base just because you messed up the count? I mean, you could easily say, well, Abreu got a stolen base. And I'm sure that's what Ventura is talking about. They're going to send Abreu back to first, and that really ticks Robin off. All right, Abreu goes back to first. Ventura loses that one. First and third, 1 out. And now Adam Dunn ready to check in. Butera looks over to the bench and says, all right, what do we do 3-2 with this guy? And he settles into a crouch. Adam Dunn has struck out 59 times. Big pitch. And how do you like that? Slow breaking ball that barely made it up to the plate. So Dunn strikes out instead of walking. Abreu is back at first where he belongs. And it'll be Alexi Ramirez, who is certainly no walk in the park. 5 strikeouts for Josh Beckett. 2 runs, 6 hits for the White Sox. No runs, 1 hit for the Dodgers. That was a leadoff bunt single by D. Gordon. Slow breaking ball for a strike. Alexi, long and lean. He's 6'2" and about 175. Ground ball to Ramirez, the quick feed, and the Dodgers, after all of that, get out of it cheaply enough. No runs, 1 hit and a walk, 2 left, and at the end of 4.5 innings, it's still 2-0 Chicago.
Chicago. Be sure to join us on the next episode of Backstage Dodgers. The team celebrates Josh Beckett's unforgettable no-hitter. Catch the new episode of Backstage Dodgers tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Sportsnet LA. Drew Butera, Josh Beckett, and then D. Gordon. 2-0 Chicago. Butera lined out to left field in the second inning, hit it right at Adam Dunn. Shows bunt that had Garcia on the move. 0-1 to Drew. Butera hitting .216. 0-2. Little roller. Beckham was deep. Makes the play. One away here in the fifth inning, and the batter is Josh Beckett. Beckett in his last 2 innings has made 48 pitches. And in 5 innings, Josh has made 86 pitches. So he's not come around too long with that kind of a pitch count. Struck out in the 3rd inning. When Beckett pitched his no-hitter, he went 9 and made 128 pitches. Last game against Pittsburgh, he went 5 and he was out of there after 88 pitches. 1 ball, 1 strike. Fastball in there. And another fastball, strike 3. That'll be that. So Beckett becomes strikeout number 3, and the batter is D. Gordon. D. Gordon, a bunt single, fly to left, 1 for 2. Garcia plays him in on the grass. Abreu about even with the bag. And a strike on the inside pitch. 0-1. Gordon has been struggling during the homestand. 1-1. Coming into the game, and this is game number 10. He was 5 for 31. And a line drive, sinking line drive. Beckham caught it for the out, and that's the inning. And at the end of 5, it's 2-0 Chicago. Just were in Philadelphia. Sandy Koufax had a record of 5 wins and 4 losses. He was troubled. He was trying to figure out, where did the magic go from 1963? Well, in the clubhouse in Philadelphia, he was going through some magazines, and all of a sudden he saw a picture. And the picture said, wait a minute, your foot used to be there in 63. Your foot is here in 64. Well, he went on to pitch a no-hitter. How did he come out for the year? 19-5 and an earned run average of 1.7. Let's go back to this one.
And immediately, Alejandro Diaz, a base hit to left field. So Beckett has now made 87 pitches, and you have to figure they'll be watching him very, very carefully ever since. Flowers, Garcia, and then Danks. Two runs, 7 hits for the White Sox, no runs, 1 hit for the Dodgers. Oh, and 1. Yeah, it's an interesting thing in the big leagues. One little change, either a plus or a minus, can make all the difference. Even to the great ones like Koufax. Watching him struggle after he won everything in sight the previous year. There goes the runner, foul ball. So Diaz off to the races. He has stolen 7 out of 10. Stole second base in the 4th inning. And just by pointing his foot back to the way it was landing in 1963, Sandy went from a 5-4 record to 19-5. Wow. 0-2. We're in the 6th. White Sox have home runs leading off the inner. Garcia in the 3rd, Dunn in the 4th, and that's it. Oh, and 2 to Flowers. He struck out twice. Diaz not going. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Flowers has 1 hit in the series. It was a home run in the 4th inning of last night's game. Two runs, 7 hits, 1 error for the White Sox on home runs. No runs, just 1 hit. Kind of a murmur of protest from the Dodgers. Adam Dunn along with Lurie Garcia, who's on deck. Time. So the hitters get very tired, getting locked in at the plate. Josh Beckett's been a professional since 2000. 15 years he's labored. There goes Diaz. Change is high. Throw. Got it. Nice tag by Gordon. Perfect throw by Drew Butera. Well, Diaz is chopped down 2-4. 1 out. Take another look. Butera. Perfect throw to Gordon. So down goes Diaz. Flowers still up there. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Breaking ball got him for the 3rd time. Flowers strikes out. 6 strikeouts for Josh Beckett. And Lurie Garcia coming up.
Third baseman, number 28, Lurie Garcia.
when you talk about hitting, and you talk about the hitter's approach, and then you talk about a very good hitter wearing out a very good pitcher, that's really rare to get that kind of a combination. Usually the very good pitcher is going to command. But take Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn faced Greg Maddux, always acknowledged as one of the smartest pitchers to ever play the game. Gwynn faced Maddux 107 times. Tony hit .415 against Maddux, and Maddux never struck him out. 0-2 the count to Garcia. Take the great trio of Braves pitchers, Maddux, Glavine, and Smoltz. Tony Gwynn went to the plate 287 times. I mean, they're as good for sure. I mean, Maddux, Glavine, and Smoltz, that's really something. And that's going to be a base hit for Garcia. Anyway, Tony Gwynn had 287 at-bats against that trio. He hit .381, and he struck out all of 3 times. How many times have you seen a hitter like Flowers strike out 3 times in a game? In a game? Well, there have been 560 times where we've had 3 strikeout games this year in the big league. Foul ball. The great Gwynn had 1 3-strikeout game in his career. I mean, he was incredible. Great notes about Tony Gwynn, a great player. Hard ground ball smothered by Gordon on his knee, pulls Gonzalez off the bag. I don't think he could have had a play at second base. Didn't look that way. So Danks is aboard on a base hit. Garcia runs so well that when Gordon left his feet, I'm sure in his mind he thought, well, I can't get him. I better go and make the awkward throw to first. And it pulled Adrian off. So that's the 9th hit, and base hit number 1 for Danks. So Garcia now at second, and here's Adam Eaton trying to pick him up. Slow and foul. 0-1. Down in the Dodger bullpen, because we're getting close to 100 pitches, so Brandon League begins to loosen up. John Danks, an American League pitcher, has only had 24 at-bats in his career. That base hit for John, his 2nd career hit. So Danks a lot. First and second, 2 out, 2-0 Chicago. Beckett, 98 pitches, working on a tough hitter with a small strike zone, Adam Eaton. Grounded to second, grounded to third, and then doubled to left field. Trying to pick up somebody, Garcia especially at second base. Little nubber back to the box, and that'll be that. So Beckett works his way out of a jam. He's made 99 pitches. White Sox come up empty, but they still lead 2-0. brought to you by the Ram 1500, Motor Trend's 2014 Truck of the Year, and first ever back-to-back champion.
Be sure to follow every Dodger game, MLB.com at bat, on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. Get live look-ins, instant replay, scores, stats, audio, free MLB TV game of the day, and so much more. Download on the App Store or visit Dodgers.com today. Well, for Josh Beckett, when he retired Adam Eaton, that was his 99th pitch of the game. However, Brandon League is not throwing, so it looks like they're going to stay with Beckett. And it'll be Puig, Ramirez, and Gonzalez trying to get him a couple of runs. Gave up 2 runs last time out and lost, and he's given up just 2 tonight, and he's losing. Puig popped up and walked, 0 for 1. Ball 1. When Puig walked in the first inning, it summed up the fact that his plate discipline has improved greatly. He's walked 28 times in 55 games. He walked 36 times in 104 games last year. And for the last 12 games, he's been hitting .386. Two and 0 the count. Fastball hit sharply to Ramirez. So Puig taps to short, 1 down, and the batter will be Hanley Ramirez. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Brandon Lee gets up again. So we'll see. Hanley walked, fly to center, 0 for 1, hitting .256. Fly ball to center, he just hit under it. It was a towering fly ball, but couldn't go out. Off speed, drops in nicely. You are seeing 2 veteran pitchers pitch. Beckett using a fastball as a changeup, and pretty much that's what Danks is doing. 1-1. Oh, good pitch. That almost acted like a screwball. Change up, and it wiggled down and away. One ball, 2 strikes. Fastball on the inside corner, strike 3. Whoa. Ramirez just shaking his head, saying it was not a strike. It is now. Fastball right in there. So Ramirez called out for Danks. He now has 4 strikeouts. And the batter is Adrian Gonzalez, who grounded out, reached on an error. Shows in the fastball down, ball 1. 1-0. One and 1 to Adrian Gonzalez. Adrian hitting .261, but not having much luck against left-hand pitching. Came into the game hitting .185 against left-handers. Off-speed curveball, little simple ground ball. That's that. So down go the Dodgers. Their only hit, a leadoff bunt single by D. Gordon at the start of the game. And it's still 2-0 Chicago.
ahead, we look at the Dodgers on the road. On the weekend, they'll be in Colorado Friday evening, Saturday and Sunday, and then a 4-game series with the Cincinnati Reds. And following the conclusion on June the 12th in Cincinnati, Dodgers then will come home on the weekend of the 13th, 3 with Arizona and 3 with Colorado before going back out again. Meanwhile, Josh Beckett, after his 4th inning, had made 2,000 pitches in his career. He added 2 more innings, so he went 6. Goes out having made 99 pitches and allowing only 2 runs. But the Dodgers unable to score. In fact, they only have 1 hit, 1 single. So Brandon Lee will pick up, and he'll be facing Beckham, Abreu, and Dunn. Quite a challenge for a guy just coming in the game. Beckham is 1 for 3, has 5 hits in the series. Ball 1. Gordon hitting .291. Fastball that misses low and inside. 2 balls and no strikes. Brandon Lee in his 23rd game. Fastball, a chopper. Justin has to kind of double clutch and gets him anyway. So Beckham taps to third. Nice play by Turner, 1 away. Brandon Lee with a fine earned run average of 2.1. Now Jose Abreu doubled in the 1st inning, hit into a force play in the 3rd, and walked last time up in the 5th. Remember, that's when Dunn came up. Kerwin Danley lost the count. Dunn had to be called back and struck out. Adam waiting on deck. 1 ball and no strikes to Jose Abreu. On the hands. Among other things about Abreu, baseball talk, he swings at the first pitch about 40% of the time. He's first in RBIs from the 7th inning on. 20 of his RBIs have come 7th inning or later. Fastball, 1-2. He's tough with 2 strikes. He's had 8 RBIs with 2 strikes against him. In fact, he's had 8 RBIs with an 0-2 count. He has 2 home runs in this series, so 11 of his home runs have been hit on the road. Down he goes. So League take care of Beckham and Abreu. Another hurdle. Adam Dunn. Adam Dunn grounded to short, homered in the 4th inning leading off, and struck out on that 3-2 pitch after Kerwin Danley had trouble with the count. Gordon plays 15 feet out on the grass at deep right field. Right. On the outside corner. 1 ball. Not yet. No balls and 2 strikes. and runs it inside. 1-2. Just missed below the knees. 2-2 the count. So he's been in and then out and in again, and he's gone all the way. 3-2 to Adam Dunn. Alexi Ramirez on deck. Ground ball. Gordon has to go way over. Nice pick and nice play. So Brandon Lee comes in, sets him down 1-2-3, and we're going to the bottom of the 7th inning. It's still 2-0 Chicago. On Sportsnet LA is driven by your Southern California Mazda dealers. Bottom of the 7th inning, still 2-0. Couple of switches in the outfield. Alejandro Diaz, who started the game in right field, takes over in left for Adam Dunn. And Moises Sierra, who played right field last night and finished in left, he'll be in right field. So when it's all said and done, put Sierra in Dunn's spot. Matt Kemp has grounded out and struck out. The Sox load up the left side. So Abreu all alone between first and second. Two balls and one strike. John Danks. He is 1 for 3 tonight. Had an infield single in the 6th inning. Ball 3. And in checking, we knew that for Danks it was his second major league hit. The other hit was 6 years ago, June 26, 2008. And wouldn't you know, it was against the Dodgers in a Clayton Kershaw game. High fly ball, very playable. Adam Eaton, one away. So Kemp fly ball, one down. Remember, the only Dodger hit was a leadoff bunt single by G. Gordon. They also had Gonzalez reach on an error, Van Slyke hit by a pitch, and Van Slyke walked. That's to the extent that's been the Dodger offense. Load up again on Van Slyke. Ball one. Scotty does not have an official at bat. He was hit by a pitch and walked. Brian Wilson gets up in the Dodger bullpen. There's Brian. And the White Sox pen, they get the left-hander Scott Downs and the right-hander Jake Petrushka. 1-2 to Van Slyke. On deck, Justin Turner. Dodgers have certainly been shut down by Danks. And that pitch almost behind him and hits him. So Van Slyke 0 for 0 tonight. Hit by the pitch twice and walks. You know, when you look back to the first game of the series, Jose Quintana. And Quintana went 5 innings without allowing a run. And then in the 6th inning, that's when the White Sox threw the game away. So Quintana was great. Noesi pitched very well. And Danks is pitching a dandy. And that's always the question, is the team not hitting or is the pitching that great? And ball one to Turner. Fly to left, grounded to second. 2 runs, 9 hits for the White Sox. No runs, 1 hit for the Dodgers. And fouled away. If you look back at the pitchers that the White Sox have sent to the mound, Quintana was 3 and 4, did not have great numbers. Noesi, who started last night, remember, he was 0 and 4, 0 and 12, 2 and 19, and he pitched very well. And now here's Danks. He was 4 and 14 last year, and 3 and 5 this year. So the Dodgers have been stopped, at least numerically, not by good pitching, at least on the background of those involved. And yet the Sox have done the job. 2-2 the count to Justin Turner. It's always been the big question. Is the pitching so good or is the hitting so bad? I don't know who can figure that out. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Came in on him. Justin might have been looking for something else, and down he goes. So Danks now has 5 strikeouts. And with 2 down, Drew Butera coming up. So the firm of Kemp and Puig not open for business. Kemp is 0 for 3. Puig is 0 for 2. Ramirez 0 for 2. And Gonzalez 0 for 3. So if you look at the fellas, the cylinders that you think would make the car move, they are not working. Puig 0 for 2. Ramirez, that makes it 0 for 4. Gonzalez 3, that's 0 for 7. Kemp 0 for 3. So all the solid hitters in the middle of the lineup, collectively, they are 0 for 10. 1 ball and no strikes. Two and 0. Should Butera get aboard, Jamie Romack is out on deck. Brian Wilson getting ready to pitch the 8th inning. Fastball, high strike. As you can see, fastball, he's not overpowering, 88 miles an hour, but he's done a great job in and out, up and down. He has hit 2 batters, and he has walked 3. On the edge again. So 3-1 the count. 2 out, Ben Schleich at first. White Sox lead 2-0. Fastball hit the center fielder Adam Eaton. Well, that does it for Butera and for the Dodgers. No runs, no hit. Hit batter, man life. All right, we'll get to you in a minute. Stay warm. You'll be in there. And at the end of 7, 2-0 White Sox. Top of the 8th inning. A reminder, Saturday, June 14th, Tommy Lasorda bobblehead night. And the first 50,000 fans in attendance will take home a mini Brooklyn throwback Tommy for their collection. Compliments of State Farm. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotion. Well, the Dodgers surrendered a run in the 3rd, a run in the 4th. They've had just 1 hit, and that was a bunt single by D. Gordon opening up the game. So the Dodger pitchers, Beckett did well, allowed the 2 runs. Brandon Lee got him out in the 7th. Wilson going to work in the 8th. By the way, Gordon will be batting second when the Dodgers hit in the bottom of the 8th. Take a look at the Dodger offense. Here it is thus far. Drag, bunt. Danks tried to catch up. Beckham could not make the play. And that's it. So Danks, give him a lot of credit. He's turned in a great 7 innings. He's made 97 pitches. And now here in the 8th, Ramirez, Diaza, and Flowers. Alexi grounded to short, struck out, hit into a force play, time. Ramirez likes to dig a little trench with that back foot. Off speed, starts him with a change for a strike. Wilson in his 24th game. Fastball, good location, 0-2 the count. I think Ramirez a little annoyed. Maybe he felt he chased that. No balls and 2 strikes. and went after another one, I think, out of the strike zone. 0-2 the count. Ramirez, very impressive, very good hitter. Came into the game hitting .325. He has struck out only 28 times. That would be about 10% of his plate appearances. 0-2. One ball and 2 strikes to Ramirez. White Sox had their opening inning hitters connect. Garcia opened up the 3rd, home run. Adam Dunn opened up the 4th, home run. 1-2 to Ramirez. Fouled away. Alexei has been a good hitter ever since he started with the White Sox. Started with the White Sox in 2008. In 6 years, he collected 1,000 hits. Two and two. Two balls, 2 strikes. And chopper up the middle, off the glove of the charging Hanley Ramirez, and Alexei is aboard. So we'll wait on the scoring, but it looks like you would think he would have made that play. Take another look. High bouncer up the middle, tries to hope and run, can't make the play, and the scorer figures, well, it's the old rule. It would have taken a good play to get Alexei, so it'll go as a base hit. That's usually the governing rule. So everybody but Flowers now with a base hit. Flowers, the catcher, has struck out 3 times. Diaz fly to center and has 2 singles. 0-1. Alejandro Diaz started the game in right, finishing up in left. Adam Dunn, while he was in there, rounded to short, homered, struck out, grounded out. Time. Turner in on the grass at 3rd. When the Dodgers bat in the bottom of the 8th inning, they'll have a hitter for Wilson, then Gordon and Puig. 0-1. Tied him up a little bit. They're going to check. Yep, swing. 0-2 the count to Alejandro. Ramirez at first, nobody out. 0-2 to Diaz. Ramirez is their #1 base stealer, though Wilson really has to keep an eye on him. Ramirez has stolen 12 out of 14. First time he's been on the base today. Away, 1-2. It was kind of a pitch out count, so there wasn't much of a chance Ramirez was going to go 0-2, but now 1-2. Let's see. They look across to Super Joe McEwing. Ramirez dancing off the bag. 2-2 the count. On that ground ball up the middle, where Hanley Ramirez tried to short hop it and couldn't do it, they're changing the base hit. They're going to call it an error instead. So one Ramirez loses a hit, the other draws the error. There he goes. Pitch missed at the plate. Good throw, and he slides right into the tag. Well, Drew Gutierrez has been throwing exceptionally well, and that was right on the money. He threw out Diaza in the 6th inning, and he throws out Ramirez here in the 8th. Nice tag by Hanley at the other end.
Catcher number 21, Tyler Flowers.
So that takes care of the error. It also takes care of Diaza. And the batter is Flowers. Big catcher is not only 0 for 3, he has struck out all 3 times. Fastball that goes upstairs off to the right. 0-1. Two runs, 9 hits, 1 error for the White Sox. No runs, 1 hit, 1 murmur of protest. A bunt single in the 1st inning by D. Gordon. Fouled away. 0-2 the count to Flowers. Flowers came into the game leading the White Sox in strikeouts. He struck out 64 times now, and he has an 0-2 count. And that's just one of those nights. Flowers strikes out all 4 times. Wilson strikes out 2. Here come the Dodgers. Hitter for Wilson, Gordon, and Puig. 2-0 Chicago. It's been that way. They had the home run in the 3rd inning by Garcia and the home run by Dunn in the 4th, and that's it. And for the Dodgers, all they have to show for a long day in the ballpark is 1 bunt single by D. Gordon. And they're doing it before 45,540. 45,540, and they haven't had much at all to cheer about. So Sean Figgins will bat for Brian Wilson, then Gordon, and then Puig. John Danks pitching a gem up to here. Fighting his control. Danks has walked 3 and hit 2, but he's also struck out 5. So here's Figgins trying to get something started. Sean Switch hitter batting .250. He has 4 hits as a pinch hitter. all 4 hits, batting right-handed. Corners are up. Strike. 0-1. Sean kind of cocks his head and looks at Kerwin Danley. One ball and 1 strike. John Danks ready to make his 100th pitch. Beckett made 99 pitches. And that's ball 2. For the Dodgers, certainly one hope is that Danks, who has had poorer control this year than last, and he's been fighting it. 3 walks, 2 hit batters. 2-1. 2-2. Two balls, 2 strikes. Slow curveball fouled off. In the Dodger bullpen, now that Figgins is batting for Brian Wilson, Jamie Wright begins to loosen up. But naturally that might change if the Dodgers come alive and tie or even take the lead. You'd expect to see Jansen. Curveball and hit foul. Slow curve. Figgins just turned too much on it. Yasiel Puig hits 3rd in the inning, and he's 0 for 2 with a walk. And lifted off first base down the line. Coming over is Sierra, and Moises makes the catch. So fly ball to right, 1 down, and now here's the proud possessor of the only Dodger hit. That was a drag bunt single in the first inning. He got it by Danks. Gordon Beckham could not come in and make the play. So it was a clean as a whistle single. Little did we know that's all the Dodgers would have with 1 out in the 8th inning. And a strike. Very light breeze, barely stirring the flags in center field. Beautiful evening, 71 degrees when the game started. 0-2. John Danks pitching a gem so far, a 1-hitter. Little tapper off the glove of third baseman Garcia, and into second base goes D. Gordon. Gordon slaps one. Trying to backhand it is Garcia. Kind of an awkward way to do it, and especially against a guy who runs as well. No reason for him to go down on his knees, but he did. So he played that thing into a double, and that's going to be all for Danks. So a 1-out double for D. Gordon. To show you how things have been going for the Dodgers, they've had one man get to second base. And so Danks gets a bad break. D. Gordon gets a double off the third baseman's glove. Danks leaves, and we'll be back. Coming out of the bullpen to pick up for John Danks. Danks made 107 pitches. Zach is from Rochester, Michigan, lives in Ann Arbor, went to the University of Michigan. His father had a long record as an amateur baseball coach. He has an uncle who pitched at Tulane and Michigan State. And meanwhile, John Danks, who had given up a bunt single in the first inning and then kind of a fluky double in the eighth. I'm not quite sure how Garcia would play that 9 out of 10 times, but tonight it looked like the bad hops really fooled him. And the little third baseman, especially with a guy like Gordon, tried not only to backhand the ball, but he also went down on his side and played it into a double. So Gordon, who had the bunt single, now has the double. And here comes Yasiel Puig. Puig has popped up, walk rounded to short. Yasiel hitting .340. Crowd of 45,000 coming to live. They've been sitting on their hands most of the evening. And a little low, ball one. 1-0. Putnam has a lot of pitches. Fastball, curveball, splitter, slider, changeup. One ball, no strike. And ball two. That's a two-seamer, the fastball that has good sink on it. Well, Yasiel, number 3 in the clutch hitting department. Dodgers will see Tulowitzki on the weekend when they go to Colorado. So Gordon is second, 1 out, 2-0 White Sox. There goes Gordon to third. The deal steals the base. He's now stolen 35. Putnam never looked, raised the leg, and there was no chance to get Gordon. Two balls, one strike. Two and two. Puig, among other things, does not have a sacrifice fly. He does have 11 home runs, 40 runs batted in. So Gordon, the only man to get the third tonight for the Dodgers. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Ball 3. Hanley Ramirez waiting on deck. Coming into the series, Putnam had never pitched against the Dodgers. 3-2. And missed. So Ventura kind of looking cockeyed at Kerwin Danley. I think he thought that should have been a strike. So it's ball 4. From where Ventura sat, he thinks that was in the strike zone and then was caught low. Danley disagreed, and now Ventura lets a little steam out. So Robin angry about the call. In fact, he's talking to his pitching coach, and he's decided to send Don out there, Don Cooper. And he's all over Danley, who hollers, "What?" "That's enough," he said. "That's enough." Whoa! He's gone. So Robin Ventura simmering and then started hollering. Danley told him no. He kept hollering. Boom. Gone. So Ventura is spending house money now, so he can get it all out. Remember, he disagreed by losing Abreu when Kerwin Danley had trouble with the 3-2 count. If you were with us, he thought it was ball 4. Abreu went to second. Then Dunn was told no, it's 3-2. They sent Abreu back to first. Ventura was angry about that, and then Dunn struck out. Now Robin gets kicked out, disagreeing with Danley, especially on that last pitch to Yasiel Puig. So first and third, 1 out. Hanley Ramirez and Adrian Gonzalez. Ramirez walked in the first inning, flied to center in the third, and struck out in the 6th. All those at-bats were against John Danks. Now it's Zach Putnam. And ball 1. That's where he's been, basically, with the right-hand hitters. First and third. Puig the tying run at first. Gordon down the line from third. One and one. For Putnam, he has a fine earned run average, 1.5. He does have 2 wild pitches. One and 1 to count to Hanley Ramirez. 1 out in the 8th, 2-0 White Sox. All right, 1 ball, 1 strike. 1 and 2. Paul Konerko, former Dodger and now an all-time great White Soxer, in the dugout. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And Chopper to third, backing up is Garcia. They're going to get 1 and only 1. So scoring is Gordon. 2-1 in favor of the White Sox. Ramirez hits into the force play, picks up the run batted in. And now the batter is Adrian Gonzalez. Beckham never had a chance. Ramirez racing down the line. Mark Parent is basically the bench coach for Robin Ventura, and he's coming to take Putnam out, and they will go to the pen. They've got Scott Downs there, the left-hander. We'll double check in a moment. We'll be right back. They've led all through the game. Scott Downs, who appeared briefly last night, coming in now, the veteran out of Louisville, Kentucky, went to the University of Kentucky, originally signed by the Cubs, played with Chicago and then the Expos, and eventually had a solid career with the Blue Jays and the Angels. Then spent 1 year last year with the Braves, and here he is with the White Sox. So Downs, 38 years old, facing Adrian Gonzalez, who is grounded out, reached on an error, and grounded out again. So Puig at first, and of course by bringing in a left-hander, to counter Gonzalez, he'll also keep an eye on Puig, or actually now Ramirez, at first. So 2 down, 2-1 White Sox. 0-1. Adrian fighting it, and especially against left-handers. When the game started, Adrian was hitting 185, and of course he's seen Danks, and now he sees Downs. 0-1. And a little ground ball to short. Ramirez makes the play. Gonzalez goes 0 for 4, and the Dodgers fortunate to get 1. So Danks heading for the clubhouse, Gordon heading for second base, and it's 2-1 White Sox. To what is now a 2-1 lead, and Jamie Wright becomes the 4th Dodger pitcher. Josh Beckett went 6, allowed 2. Then it's been Bryant, League, Wilson, and now Wright. The White Sox with Danks, Putnam, and Downs. In the 9th inning, Lurie Garcia, and he'll be followed by Paul Konerko, and then Adam Eaton. So Wright's ready, and into the 9th inning we go. Garcia at 5'7", electrified the crowd in the 3rd inning. He hit one where the big boys hit him, over the center field fence. And at 5'7", it did come as a little bit of a shock. Then he was walked intentionally, single to left, though he's 2 for 2, hitting .250. Lurie Garcia. From now on, everybody will be leery of Lurie. 2 runs, 9 hits for Chicago. 1 run, just 2 hits for the Dodgers. And ground ball, backhanded by Gordon. 1 pitch, 1 away. Well, hello there. At least your eyes are still wide open at this hour.
Attention, please, for the White Sox.
It's
Pitch
fun
hitting
to be
number
out with
14,
the grown-ups.
Paul Konerko.
Maybe. 2-1 Chicago, and here is one of the great White Sox players, Paul Konerko. Konerko, originally a Dodger, traded to Cincinnati. When the Dodgers signed him, they signed him as a catcher. And he was a catcher for about 2 years. They moved him to first base. He had a hip condition, and they were worrying he'd have chronic bone spurs if he played behind the plate. So it was a great move for Paul and for everyone who has had him. He is not only a highly talented player, but highly respected, admired, not only by his teammates, but all the other players. A class act. Fouled away. Konerko is from Providence, Rhode Island, but he lives in Scottsdale. 6'2", 220. Way back 20 years ago, he was a first-round pick by the Dodgers. He's had over 100 RBIs 5 times in his career, as many as 117. 1 ball, 1 strike. And that dropped in nicely. Konerko has a brother, Peter, who's an actor and teaches acting in New York. He won all the usual honors: minor league player of the year, MVP of the Coast League. Then he was traded to Cincinnati for reliever Jeff Shaw. 2-2. Konerko has had as many as 41 home runs, as many as 117 RBIs. He was certainly the soul of the White Sox clubhouse the first 10 years of the 2000s. 2-2. Ground ball to Gordon. So 2 down. Konerko last night came off the bench and had a base hit to left field. So he winds up pinch hitting in each of the 3 games and going 1 for 3. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 9th inning, they have Matt Kemp, Scott Van Slyke, and Justin Turner. Adam Eaton grounded out twice, doubled, and hit back to the box. Drag bunt on the chalk, and it goes foul. 0-1 to count. Dodgers have done pretty well in interleague play against the American League. (17-10). However, they're in the red against the White Sox. They're 7-13 against Chicago. And for the Dodgers, of course, some bad numbers. They've lost 5 of the last 7, and they've lost 6 of 8 to the left-hand starters here at home. 0-2 to Adam Eaton, 2 down. On deck, Gordon Beckham. Oh, 2. Little tapper wide of third. Turner takes care of him. So the Sox go down in order, and here come the Dodgers. That would mean Matt Kemp, followed by Scott Van Slyke, and then Justin Turner. We'll be back. White Sox. Kemp, Van Slyke, and Turner facing the former Dodger, Ronald Belisario. Interesting in the sense, Belisario in 5 years with the Dodgers had 4 saves. In his first year with Chicago, he has 4 saves, but they didn't plan on him being the closer, maybe the setup man, the holder. But when Matt Lindstrom went down, Lindstrom was the closer, and they turned to Ronald, and it's paid off. So Belisario facing Kemp. Belisario, at least with the Dodgers, you just never quite knew what you were going to get. He would have some brilliant days, then he'd have some really off days. And we'll find out what kind of a day it is for him right now. Belisario ready to close it up if he can. Matt Kemp 0 for 3. And ball 1. Kemp grounded to third, struck out, fly to center. Belisario, big man, 6'3", 240. That's a strike. He'll be 32 years old Christmas, in fact, New Year's Eve. From Maracay in Venezuela. Signed by the Marlins, became a Dodger in 09 until last year. Fastball in there at 97. 1-2 to Matt Kemp. And chopper to Beckham. So Matt Kemp goes 0 for 4 as he taps out. 1 down in the 9th.
Center fielder number 33, Scott Van Slyke.
So Matt Kemp, a tough series, 1 for 12. Scott Van Slyke, twice hit by a pitch and walked. All 3 plate appearances were against John Danks. And a strike. If Danks win, the Dodger record against left-handers at home will be 2 wins and 7 losses. The Dodgers will be 6 games under 500 at home. And worst of all for them, the Giants won. So the Dodgers and Don Mattingly would be 8 games back unless they can do something here in the 9th inning. Fouled away. Dodgers been involved in counting tonight 17 1-run games, and they are 7-9. They're 3-5 at home in 1-run games. 1-2. Got him. So Van Slyke is caught looking. Down he goes. 2 out in the 9th inning. And the batter is Justin Turner.
Justin Turner.
Well, one thing for the Dodgers, at least this year, they've been playing much better on the road. And they look to the road to try and get well. On the road this year, they are 18-11. D. Gordon and company will be challenged in Colorado and then Cincinnati. Turner 0 for 3. Fly to left, grounded out, struck out. Good fastball at 96. 1 ball and 1 strike. In a slugfest finally concluded, the Diamondbacks beat the Rockies 16-8. Fastball in there. Boy, he is throwing nice and easy, too. Belisario already has 1 save at Dodger Stadium in this series. So he's done a good job replacing Matt Lindstrom. Matt's out with an ankle injury. Fastball, high chopper to Beckham. And down go the Dodgers, losing 2 out of 3 to the White Sox, finishing up a homestand where they won 4 and lost 6. The winning pitcher is John Danks, and the loser, hard luck, Josh Beckett, who allowed 2 runs, 2 consecutive games, and lost in each game. The player of the game, left-hander John Danks, who made 107 pitches and picked up the victory. So the Dodgers pack their bags tomorrow and take a hike to Colorado and Cincinnati. They'll be back here on the 13th against Arizona. We'll talk to you then. Till then, we wish you all a very pleasant good evening, everybody.